Hi there, it's Kalyn with a Paper Smooches card tutorial for you. Today I'm going to be using the Spring Grove stamp set, and I'm going to be using the Notes and Things collection of patterned paper from Crate Paper. I'm also using the scallop frame die, and I'm going to just cut out a piece of patterned paper using that frame die. And what I'm planning on doing is framing those really cute bubble trees with that die cut shape. So that's going to serve as my focal point. And then what I'm doing here is just looking for another piece of patterned paper to go inside the frame that I'm going to actually stamp the trees on. So I picked this really pretty subtle floral pattern, and I just thought that would look perfect inside of that frame. So now I'm taking Walnut Stain Distress ink from Tim Holtz and just inking up my stamp using that ink. And as you can see, I'm not inking up the whole thing because not all of the tree trunks are going to show on this piece of pattern paper. So just inking up what's going to appear on the inner frame part. So now I'm going to be taking a piece from the Flea Market collection from Crate Paper by Maggie Holmes and just finding what's going to be the background on my card. It's going to cover the entire card front, and I settled on this really pretty light teal. It just was the perfect like springtime green, I thought. And I really went kind of pattern crazy on this card and mixed a ton of patterns, but that's something I just love to do on my projects. So you'll see me folding down my card base and then measuring how I'm going to cut the pattern paper here. So now the pattern paper is all cut out, and I'm just going to adhere it to my card front using my Tombow Mono Multi Glue. So now you can see I'm going to be using the Welcome Spring sentiment from the Spring Grove stamp set, and I played around for a little bit trying to figure out what the best placement for this would be, and in the end I decided that it would look best as just a one-line sentiment instead of the way that it's placed on the stamp now, which is one line on top of the other. So I just kind of measured out with my fingers to make sure it would fit across the base of my frame die. And then I'm going to be masking it so that way I can have it just go all on one line instead of on two. So I like to use the post-it note technique of masking. You can do this several different ways. You could use washi tape or scotch tape, really anything that will adhere to your stamp, cover up part of the image, and then can be easily removed. So post-it notes work perfect for this. So I'm just going to be taking my Walnut Stain Distress ink again, and I'm going to ink up the welcome part of the sentiment, and while that bottom spring part is covered. So you'll see here as I ink it up, you do get ink on the post-it note, so it's really important to remove that before you stamp. I have made that mistake several times before, forgetting. So now when I stamp, all you see is the word welcome, and then you can do the exact same thing for the second half of the word. So I'm just going to wipe down my stamp so no residue gets on the paper, and then just cover up the word and do it all over again. So now that my stamping is all done, I'm going to be taking the Just For You Icons die set, and I'm using the tiny little butterflies that come in that set and just going to add some die cuts to my focal point. So I'm taking the flea market paper collection that I used earlier and just taking some scraps that I have and cutting them out what I want the butterflies to be die cut out of. So I picked a dark teal, and then I picked part of this dark pink color because I wanted them to stand out since they're so small and since a lot of this card is pastel colors. So here they are all cut out, and as you can see, they're really tiny, but they add like an adorable just little texture and little fluttery movement to the card. So now I'm taking a look at some patterned brads from the Close Knit collection from Crate Paper, and just taking some different sizes, different colors, and seeing how they might look on my frame die. I do this a lot in my process. I just take embellishments that I think will coordinate well, and I try different sizes, I try different arrangements, and really I play around with it a ton before I decide on kind of the finished look that I want. So here I am just kind of seeing what's going to work, and I knew at this point that I wanted to add more die cuts. So I'm going to be using the Butterflies 2 dies for this and cutting them out with some more patterned paper. I decided to revisit the flea market collection again for the paper for these, and I chose this diagonal yellow and white stripe paper, which I really love. So I'm just going to cut out a piece that will fit both of the dies so I can just run them through my machine once and have both of my pieces cut out. So there are my 2 butterflies, and I'm folding them in the center so that they will pop up a little bit. And now just trying to see how they might work on the layout and how that brad might be incorporated. I don't actually end up using the brad on here, but as you can see, I really tried to make it work, but it just wasn't working. So now I'm taking these gold glitter enamel dots from SEI. I got these in a Studio Calico kit, and I will link below which one exactly it was. And just putting that on the center of the smallest butterfly. And then I decided I wanted another strip of pattern paper at the bottom. Like I said, this card has a ton of pattern going on, but I just really love that about it. So I decided on this floral pattern because it really brought in every color that was on the card, and I liked that it just really unified it in that way. So I used my pinking shears to add a little edge to it, and it wasn't quite short enough, so I had to do it one more time, and then it worked perfect. So now I'm just adding a little bit more glue, adhering that down, and then I'm going to adhere down the rest of the elements. To adhere down the really tiny butterfly dies, I'm using my quick stick. My first one was actually from Quick Cuts, but now you can get it through the Silhouette online store. And it works really awesome at picking up just tiny little die cut pieces so you can glue them and put them down without like losing them and just driving yourself crazy. So it's such a good tool, and I use it all the time. So now everything is adhered down and the card is complete. Thank you so much for watching and creating along with me today. And be sure to check out Paper Smooches for the stamps and dies that I used.